Hello, welcome to my presentation on differentiating instruction in the classroom. What is differentiated instruction? Differentiated instruction is an approach teachers can take to adjust how they teach and what they teach, and just better to meet the individual needs of the students. Differentiated instruction does not mean just for disabled students or students with disabilities. It also means students who have English as a second language, so there might be a bit of a language barrier to their education, or students that are more advanced and just simply need some more enrichment. Differentiated instruction includes 3 different elements. These include content, process, and product. The content, the knowledge and skills that students need to know, that is considered the content. When teachers differentiate content, they are teaching students the same information, but just in different ways. This can be accomplished in a variety of different methods, including tiered content. It's simply taking the content and dividing it up into some parts that are a little bit more challenging, some parts that are not quite as challenging. They can also they could do this by providing a variety of different materials. Rather than like the classic textbook, you can use the internet, you can use newspaper and magazines, you can use video games and computer games, and all different kinds of ways to expose students to the content, to the material or the skills that they're going to need to learn. Presentation styles can also help by changing the way that you present information. Instead of just lecturing, you can expose them to the information, to the content, in a variety of different ways. You can do that through group discussions, through read aloud groups, through showing content, through pictures or film, or by modeling the skills, or by using or demonstrating manipulatives as well. Other ways to differentiate content include scaffolding, learning contracts, and compacting. The next element is process. When teachers differentiate process, they teach the same content, but the manner that the students learn it is different. There are a couple different ways that this can happen. Through tiered activities, through learning centers, and those simply are areas of a classroom that are designed around a particular topic, a theme, or a skill. Another way is interactive journals. It can be simply a notebook that students and teachers and also parents as well can communicate back and forth in. When teachers differentiate instructions through a journal, they can do this by varying their journal prompts, and they can also use journals as a form of ongoing assessment of the child's needs and skills. Other ways of differentiating process include graphic organizers, jigsaw activities, and manipulatives. Another way to differentiate process is to vary the length of an assignment that the student has to complete it. As far as the product, when teachers differentiate product, they take an assignment, they take an assessment of the product, of the content, but the students are allowed to demonstrate their skill or the knowledge they've learned in a variety of different ways. They can do that through an oral presentation, through making a slideshow, through a written report, any number of different ways that simply show the teacher that the student has learned that content or skill. How do teachers differentiate instruction? There's the best differentiate instruction for the students. Teachers need to know their students. 3 areas that they need to be pretty familiar with include readiness, interest, and their learning profile. Readiness is a skill, is the skill or knowledge level that students have regarding any particular kind of content. Students' readiness can vary greatly across subject or content areas. For example, they may know a lot about the Revolutionary War, but don't necessarily so much about the Civil War. Students' readiness can also be influenced by background knowledge, by life experiences, or by previous learning experiences. To assess readiness, that could happen through formal or informal testing, through examining the student's academic record and looking over previous work samples. You can also ask a student to complete a KWL chart. For interest, that refers to the topic, skills, or activities that interest that student, the things that they are naturally curious about and just they want to learn more about. To assess interest, really, you just ask them. You begin discussions. You ask them, hey, what do you like? What do you dislike? To kind of figure out where their interest levels lie. Another way to assess interest is to have them participate in a classroom icebreaker activity. Then the third way that teachers need to know their students are the student's learning profile. This simply means the way that students, the preferred method of learning new skills or information. A student's learning profile are going to be impacted by their gender, their age, and cultural background. When assessing a learning profile, teachers should always pay attention to the students' feelings and their thoughts, how they view themselves, what makes them feel successful, and what kind of makes them feel a little bit more discouraged, and take those feelings into consideration as well. When you're getting ready to prepare students or classroom for differentiated instruction, you need to look at the classroom itself and then look at how you prepare the students themselves also. To organize your classroom, to help with the transition from a traditional classroom setting into a differentiating classroom setting, you're going to need to look at, teachers are going to need to keep in mind how to be more flexible and have more flexible options. How are they going to work effectively with groups versus one large group as a whole? Teachers also need to create a space where students are going to feel safe. If a teacher's working with another group, paying attention to them, to that group, all the other students are kind of sort of going to be on their own a little bit, so they need to be able to feel safe and secure within that environment as well. Areas within the physical classroom that you need to consider are floor space, walls and bulletin boards, and then how you store materials. For floor space, teachers need to think about how they're going to provide instruction and the arrangements that will work best as far as where their desk goes, where the students' desks are arranged, and those kinds of things. For bulletin boards and wall space, teachers can use wall space to provide needed information to students. Information that should be included within the wall space is going to include classroom rules and expectations about behavior, procedures for various classroom activities, information about where assignments are turned in, student assignment and chore charts, and examples of good quality work so students know this is what I need to be working towards. One area of wall space should be kept clear of any kind of signage or anything that will give students who have a hard time focusing and are easily distracted, that will give them something plain and simple they can focus on to kind of keep distractions at a minimal. As far as storage space, students are going to be working in different groups and with a variety of different tasks and assignments. They need to be able to access the necessary materials for those tasks, preferably on their own, without needing to continually go to a teacher, hey, I need materials for this, or hey, I need materials for that. They need to be able to independently go and get those materials. So when you're setting up the classroom, storage needs to be in a way that kids can gain access to it independently. Other areas to consider when you're talking about storage materials: use clear label or use clear boxes. Make sure the boxes are clearly labeled, and they're said to have lots of trash cans and pencil sharpeners available to the students. When you're preparing students for differentiated instruction in a classroom, an effective behavior management is going to be really important in helping that kind of transition go smoothly. It's going to begin with established rules, expectations, guidelines for procedures. All these things are going to help students identify, define, and kind of figure out what is acceptable behavior and what is not acceptable behavior. It will also help the students monitor their own behavior if they know exactly what is expected. Classroom behavior management system should be positively stated. It should use simple, specific terms. They should be measurable and observable, and they should be very clearly defined expectations and behaviors. Some examples of procedures that you need to have around the classroom: those are going to include what's it like to work in a small group, maintaining appropriate noise level, transitioning between activities, managing time, and then accessing and then returning classroom materials. When you first start implementing this differentiated instruction, you want to start small. It can seem very overwhelming sometimes, so you want to seek guidance from teachers and other professionals that have already implemented differentiated instruction. What did they work that didn't? What did they do that did work? What did they do that didn't work? Just seek some guidance from them. Start small. Start with one subject, with one class. And if there are any students that are struggling with the change, identify and provide as additional support to them as well. Differentiating instruction does not look like delivering instruction purely through lecture, just standing up and lecturing. You're going to want to develop a blending of large group and small group activities, and then one-on-one work as well. It does not look like grouping students based on last year's test results. Those are going to be irrelevant and outdated and not beneficial to the student at all. You want to continually assess students. You want to be able to continually reevaluate their needs. What are they getting? What are they not getting? And then changing to meet the needs of that particular student. Differentiated instruction does not look like providing rewards or incentives for one particular area. You want to provide rewards for multiple areas. That way, kids who are stronger in these different areas, they have the ability to gain some of those rewards as well. In closing, differentiated instruction addresses a need for evolving teaching strategies that are going to that incorporate a greater variety of individual student needs. Differentiated instruction provides flexibility, versatility, creativity, and ingenuity in the classroom. Differentiated instruction can be a highly effective teaching method for teaching lots of different kinds of students with lots of different kinds of needs. And the overall goal of differentiated instruction is for student growth and success. Thank you very much for watching, and I hope you have a good day.